So say you've got a weak pelvic floor.
Yeah.
And then you strengthen up your pelvic floor.
Mm-hmm.
Can that improve your sex life?
Yeah, 100%.
Hey guys, welcome to the Happy Way podcast, your go-to place for all things fun, happiness, well-being, growth, trust, and diversity. I am your host, Melissa Fideli, and I am here to inspire and connect everyone who chooses health and happiness so you can be your healthiest self and live life the happy way. Hey guys, today's episode is all about caring for your precious vagina post-pregnancy and how to heal and strengthen your pelvic floor. Your pelvic floor is a group of muscles and ligaments that support the bladder, uterus, and bowel. Throughout our life, the pelvic floor can weaken due to childbirth, repetitive straining, and consistent heavy lifting. Today, we have women's health physiotherapist Bella Terreri to answer all of our questions as well as give us some much needed tips on exercise and movement post-pregnancy. So welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Of course. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, your qualifications, and why you love the women's health area of physio so much.
Yeah, sure. So it's quite funny. I became a physiotherapist because I was into sport, as per like most of physios do. And then I was on my first placement at the Lower McEwen and they put me on the women's health ward. And I just had such a wonderful experience like supporting women that I was like, okay, now scrap the sports stuff. I really want to get involved with women's health. And so I did more of my private practice stuff, and then through Adelaide and through the Pilates world, I met a few people that were women's health physios that led me on the path to do some specialised courses. So I did a lot of women's health training courses, pre and postnatal stuff, but also pain science stuff related to your pelvic floor. And from there, it just grew. Like I was working in a private practice, but then I took it online so that I could kind of expand who I could help.
Yeah.
I just fell in love with it. So yeah, I don't really want to do any other type of physio.
Yeah.
Like I just feel great about empowering women to get the knowledge that they deserve.
Yeah.
I found that there was a really big lack of that, especially my experience working with women. You know, they just had no idea about half of this stuff. And my opinion was this should just be common knowledge, or women should be told this stuff, especially when they're looking at getting pregnant and having a baby. So, yeah.
Interesting. Well, I'm excited to dive into all of it because I feel like there's so much I don't know. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, but what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean the vagina? Let's get into it.
Love talking about vaginas.
Yeah, that's your area.
Yeah.
So I want to start with the FAQs that you as a physio would get a lot from mothers post-pregnancy as well as just women in general. Okay. So let's get straight into it. First one. Leaking. Is this normal after having a baby? And can you elaborate on what leaking is for someone that may be listening and be like, what the hell are they talking about?
It's so funny. So in the physio world, especially the women's health world, we don't like saying the word normal. So when you see those tenor ads or like, you know, pads for leaking, they say, you know, it's normal to leak. We say it's common. So it's really common to leak after having a baby, but it's not normal.
Okay.
So when we say leaking, we might mean that, you know, let's just say you go for a run and you can't hold on and so you leak, or you jump, or you sneeze, or you cough and a little bit of urine comes out. So that's what we mean by leaking.
Yeah.
There's so many different variants of that, but that's probably the most common form is we call it stress incontinence. So something has to happen to put pressure on your pelvic floor to leak. So a cough or jumping and then you might leak a little bit. But it is very common after having a baby. And just like you talked about at the start, just the stress that your pelvic floor does go through when you give birth.
Yeah.
So it is common, yes.
So it just kind of weakens that area.
It does weaken.
So post-pregnancy, how often do I need to do pelvic floor exercises? And what about pre-pregnancy? And as well as just your everyday girl, like someone like me who hasn't been pregnant and isn't planning on getting pregnant anytime soon. You know, how do we strengthen the pelvic floor? How do we prevent these things from happening post-pregnancy? Or, you know, what do we do? I don't know how to do it.
Well, it's so funny. So that's probably the first thing anyone asks me, even if they're not pregnant or even if they haven't had a baby. They go, do I need to do exercises for my pelvic floor? And I go, you might and you might not. So there's so many different layers to your pelvic floor, as in what you should and shouldn't do. So there's not one common set of exercises that everyone should be doing.
Okay.
So depending on the base strength of your pelvic floor, you may need to do more exercise to increase that, or you might actually have a really, really strong pelvic floor, but you can't relax. So maybe you need to do exercises to relax it.
Okay.
So a lot of people always assume their pelvic floor is weak.
Yeah.
And that's why we go, no, it's really important to get an assessment done to see how strong your pelvic floor actually is, so that we can do an individualized exercise series for you.
Okay.
So to put it easy, it's not really one quick answer for everyone, but we do say to people, especially before you're planning on getting pregnant, or you can do it in the early stages of your pregnancy, to go see women's health physio and they can assess your pelvic floor. So for example, the most common one I actually do see is more so people that have a really strong pelvic floor and they cannot relax. So we're like, you want to push a baby out of that?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. We need to teach you how to relax. And so they still do strengthening exercises, but they learn how to relax their pelvic floor as well. So that's really important. But an everyday girl like you and I, it just depends. It's probably based on symptoms. So if you have no symptoms, don't have any pain, don't have any
what do you mean by
leaking.
symptoms? Like what can symptoms be?
Yeah, so symptoms, most common ones that people think are red flags are leaking.
Yep.
So like stress incontinence.
Yep.
So if you cough, you leak a little bit, you feel like you can't hold on when you're about to go onto your wee.
Okay.
But then also the biggest one, which a lot of people don't think is red flag, is pain with sex.
Okay.
And so pain with sex commonly relates to having an overactive pelvic floor. So meaning you can't relax, like you can't let go. So there's so many different like layers to the spectrum of your pelvic floor. And I think that's the biggest thing that people go, oh, like, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow. Can having, so say you've got a weak pelvic floor.
Yeah.
And then you strengthen up your pelvic floor. Can that improve your sex life?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So the biggest thing we help some women with is, so once you give birth, and this is vaginally predominantly, your pelvic floor might feel like it's weakened, and that contraction that your pelvic floor does may feel, I don't like using this word, but may feel looser. So it's the best word to use. And so a lot of women find that when they have penetrative sex, it just doesn't feel the same, like it doesn't feel as good.
Okay.
So by strengthening your pelvic floor, it can help with that contraction and it can feel better.
Wow.
But I would actually say the flip side to that is learning how to relax makes sex feel better.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'd actually say that some women, like after they have vaginal birth, go, this is great now.
Yeah.
But I would say a lot of people are on the other side of that they need to learn how to relax to enjoy sex.
Okay. And how do you relax your pelvic floor?
Yeah, it's really hard because it's not like it's your bicep where you go, cool, I can see it contracting. Like I'll do a bicep curl.
Because it's all inside.
It's
like
all
you
inside.
can't even see what you're doing.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So when we do an assessment, we actually use a device that we can see like the pressure go on and off. So that helps. But the best way to actually learn how to relax your pelvic floor and know what it feels like is to know what it feels like when it's fully on and off.
Okay.
And sometimes that's by doing it digitally. So literally, feeling it yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Putting a finger up.
Yeah,
there.
putting a finger up there.
I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, putting a finger up there as many as you want. Because a lot of people are very visual.
Yeah.
So if they can't see something, they don't know. And it's so funny. Like I've assessed women and they're like, I'm definitely relaxing. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're up here, sis.
Yeah.
You're tight right now. Like you're really holding on. And they go, oh my God, seriously? So
why do people hold on so much? Like, is that a stress thing? Is that a
stress? It can be a lot of younger girls predominantly are the ones that are like overactive. A lot of women suck in their tummies all day as well. Like sometimes I just say to girls, just let it go, relax, because we're always on.
Yeah.
And this also relates to endo and things like that. So if you've got pain down there or something going on, you're naturally going to just squeeze and hold on to protect your body.
Yeah.
Similar way to with sex. Like if you don't want to have sex, you're going to hold on. So it's actually quite common. So it's more so like a protective thing your body does. But it's also something girls have kind of been trained to naturally do in a bad way. Like they're just always on.
Exactly. We're always holding on, sucking in,
holding on. Yeah.
Okay. This may be a silly question, but does strengthening your abdominal muscles play a role in your pelvic floor?
Yeah, it does. I think the biggest difference that I find with like women's health physios or let's just say personal trainers that are specialised in that area is that they're really different muscle groups.
Okay.
And so a lot of people go, oh, it's okay, I'll just strengthen my core and that will stop me having stress incontinence. And you go, it might help a little bit, but it's a separate muscle group. Yep. And I think that actually strengthening your core, though, can take a bit of pressure off your pelvic floor, especially for a younger girl. So if she was getting pain and all she was doing was holding onto a pelvic floor but had a really weak core, maybe strengthening her core would help stabilize her.
Okay.
And then she better let go a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
From a physio's perspective, what is the difference between post-care for a C-section and post-care for vaginal birth? And what should we be doing afterwards to heal and recover?
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest difference is the way you give birth. So, obviously with a C-section, it's surgery. So they're cutting through the abdominal wall. Yeah. With a vaginal birth, you're pushing the baby through the vaginal canal. So we'll talk about vaginal birth more so because it's a little bit more complex in recovery. So what we actually really recommend for women is to see a women's health physio at the start of your pregnancy journey because then we know the baseline. So what your pelvic floor was like before. Okay. And then what it's like during your pregnancy so that we can reassess it once you've given birth. Okay. And that's really important. So we really recommend having a 6-week postnatal check. So once you've given birth. And what we'll do there is assess the strength of your pelvic floor. Did you have any tearing? Are there any red flags? For example, do you have a risk of a prolapse and things like that? And from there, we'll give them an individualized program what to work on. So most commonly it's strengthening stuff. And doing some stability exercises around their pelvic floor, so like your core and also your glutes because that helps with that area. But mostly vaginal births, the recovery can sometimes be quicker because it's not surgery, but it actually really depends on the individual and how they're feeling. So that's kind of like a common pattern. Okay. And then for C-section, you just got to really be careful because you can't do much for the first 6 weeks. I mean, I've seen some freak women that have recovered after 4 weeks. I'm like, what the hell?
What the heck?
What the hell? But normally it's like 6 weeks, so it's the same. And we check their tummy rather than their pelvic floor. So unless they're presenting with pelvic floor symptoms like we talked about earlier, we just check their strength of their tummy and give them more so core-focused exercises to work on. So your tummy, your ab muscles actually separate to grow the baby. And during the C-section, you kind of lose a lot of your abdominal strength. So we help bring that back together.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that would be quite a long process. I feel like women after giving birth, because of the standards these days, are so hard on themselves and think that I need my post-baby body and all of this crazy stuff. And it's like, no, that shouldn't even be a thing. No. You know, it's you've given birth to a human, like nurture your body and be slow and take time and you look amazing. You know, you've just given birth. You don't need to look how you looked before your baby or I just think there's such a stigma around that. I hate it. It's a lot of, you know, a new mum, I feel like they have so much pressure on them already. There shouldn't also be that pressure of being completely normal, like not normal, but being completely like I was before, you know, and
it's ridiculous. Like I think the biggest thing that pisses me off is it gets you fired up. Love it. Just the judgment like other women place on each other and like when you give birth to a baby, the focus is literally on the baby and that's all the education you get. Whereas afterwards, there's no focus on what the mother needs or anything like that. It's like the doctor's like, okay, cool, the baby's alive. See how you go.
See ya.
So I think this like pressure and the stigma to like bounce back straight away is ridiculous. And every woman's body is different. Yeah. And that whole saying like, oh, if you breastfeed, you'll lose weight. Yes. That's bullshit. Yeah. Not everyone does. No. Like, and I would say that if someone does, that's great. But also like a lot of women don't. And so they've thought, what's wrong with me? Like, why aren't I bouncing back? Yeah. So I just feel like you just got to be really kind to your body because you just went through 9 months of growing a bloody human.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
That's an incredible job.
And now you've kept it alive. Like I think after a month, I'm going to throw myself a party for keeping a human alive.
Exactly, yeah.
Not the bloody baby, for me.
Yeah, for me. Exactly. Yes, I did so good.
Yeah, it's still alive. We've got this. Yeah.
Look at me kicking goals. Oh, good. I think lots of mums, you know, they need to hear that and take a bit of weight off their shoulders.
Literally take weight off their shoulders.
Yeah. So when it comes to exercise, how should an expecting mum be moving their body throughout the different trimesters? Yeah. You know, how do we know what is safe for our bodies? Because obviously there's a lot of, oh, don't do this, don't do that.
Yeah.
Oh, if you do that, your baby might fall out. Like,
honestly,
You know?
that was, and I genuinely thought that. I used to see women lifting weights and go, they're going to push this baby out of the vagina while they bench press.
exactly.
So funny. So I'll just start by saying that everyone's scenario is so different. So you really need to listen to your body. And it's quite funny. Like I used to get a lot of clients that would go, I'm going to get fit now that I'm pregnant. And my biggest advice to anyone out there that's trying, start now. So start before you're pregnant, because the first 15 weeks, you may have the worst morning sickness of your entire life, that you cannot move, you cannot exercise. So even if you were walking a lot before, by the time you get back to it, you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't walk like 2 steps, because you're just so deconditioned from resting, which is so fair. And I think that throughout, let's just say up until like 30 weeks, the different types of exercises vary. So you can walk, you can even run, you can do weightlifting. Pilates is my favorite.
Yeah.
Because I think it really focuses on the muscles that you should work on. But it's just listening to your body. So I think the rule of thumb, when you start really showing, so like your tummy is getting in the way, so it's kind of around 20-ish weeks. It's different for every woman. You want to avoid certain exercises that feel uncomfortable. So it's more so a comfort thing. So a lot of women actually run up until 20 weeks or some even past 20 weeks because it's how comfortable they feel. Same with weights. Like we say tone it down on the amount you're lifting. So let's just say I used to lift like 50 kilos before. Just bring it back. So normally it's about 10 kilos. So you can still do all the exercises you want, but you just got to adapt. So
and listen, like you said, learn to listen to your body. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right for you at that moment.
Crunches and jumping we tend to avoid. But there's so many exercises you actually can do. Like I used to teach like pregnancy classes, and I was like, God, I had like these women doing crazy stuff. I was like, I can't do that. And you're like 35 weeks pregnant.
And look at you go.
It's crazy. But you can really push yourself, and it's healthy. Like the evidence shows it's really good to exercise during pregnancy. So don't be scared to women get judged for exercising during pregnancy, but I would say do it. It makes you feel good. It's good for your baby. It's good for your body.
Amazing. So you did slightly say something about jumping, but I do want to touch on that because I think it's one of the biggest things that you can jump, you can't jump. What happens if I jump? Like, is something going to happen to my baby? So let's clear it up. When should can you jump, and when should you stop maybe jumping? Or so is there a rule about this?
Rule of thumb again. So as soon as you it's when your stomach really pops. So when you see women that are pregnant and then you go, oh my God, she's popped, because you can see that really firm belly. Normally it's around that time that people feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because their belly there's more pressure on your bladder when you're jumping. So I'd say up until that point, you can jump, because running is essentially jumping anyway. But after that, you don't want to. So if you jump, you're not going to do any damage. But
okay, cool. That's good to know.
It's a comfort thing. Yeah.
Right.
So I had like this woman up until she was like 17 weeks. She was doing burpees. She was running.
Burpees?
Yeah.
How did she manage a burpee with a belly?
She just didn't pop, and she was fine. And she has had her son, and he's perfectly healthy, and she's perfectly fine. So she just listened to her body. Like she was quite fit before.
Yeah, okay.
And she was like, I just need to move my body because that's what makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And so she was fine, and then stopped when it felt uncomfortable.
Great. So she just listened.
She listened. Yeah. And just killing it. Yeah.
And I have heard that if you start so if you're quite a fit person and you start exercising before you get pregnant and then you exercise at the start of your pregnancy, it is easier for your body to recover after having the baby, so you can get back to movement, whatever that may be, whatever form that is. Yeah. Is that true?
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's why doctors really recommend exercising throughout your pregnancy. So, I mean, what happens to like your pelvis during pregnancy? We'll just say like these hormones or the chemicals that go on in your body, they loosen up your like pelvic stability. So that's why a lot of women get back pain or maybe hip pain. And so actually doing exercises that strengthen those stability muscles that surround your pelvis really help with recovery. And also once you've had the baby as well, because you've got those muscles to support you. So like your glutes, you can do minor core stuff, but your leg strength, your your hamstrings, all that stuff, because once you've given birth and like your hormones and stuff change, you're going to start to move more normally. Yeah. But you really want to protect your body while you do that. So it's 100%. It's the best thing you can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after giving birth, this is probably to do with each individual person and their body, but is there like how many weeks after can you start getting back into exercise? Is there,
There is a set. You're right. It's So, for example, I did have a client that after 4 weeks, she was fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Her obstetrician signed her off.
Yeah.
And I knew her, like this was her third baby. She knew the drill. Like,
okay. Yeah.
But we'd say most commonly 6 weeks. So you have your obs-gynae appointment at 6 weeks, and they do an internal if you've had a vaginal birth, and they essentially check you off. And that's normally around the time you stop bleeding as well. Okay. So we say it's safe after that.
Yeah. Okay.
But up until that time, you can do walking, you can do whatever feels good. And then I would say once you've kind of had a proper assessment done by your women's health physio, and they can give you an individualised program.
Okay.
So it's probably around the 6 week mark. But
okay.
I say that, and there's some women that don't go back for 12 weeks, and that's also fine. Like, you're just giving birth to a baby, and it's new, especially if you're a new mum.
Yeah, of course.
I
feel like I'll be like, while I'm pregnant, I'll be like, oh yeah, can't wait to get back into exercise. And then after having the baby, I'll be like, oh my God, I'm so tired.
Like, feed me cheesecake in bed.
I'm just going to watch Netflix. My baby's sleeping.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean,
it just depends. I mean, who knows? Yeah.
But yeah, six weeks is the rule of thumb. But I would just suggest to anyone, definitely have a women's health physio check post-baby, whether it's a C-section or a vaginal birth, because even if you're not feeling anything, it's just good to get it checked out. Like, as in if you feel fine, it's just good to just cover your bases.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So from a women's health physio perspective, what is something all women should be doing daily to support their body and general well-being?
I'd say movement. And I know that's such a generic thing to say, but I think my biggest issue, I think, with society at the moment is a lot of people move their body to punish their body rather than celebrate what it can do. And that's so important because your body is amazing. It's your vessel that takes you everywhere. Yeah. And so I think picking a movement that you really, really love, whether it's yoga, whether it's hiking, whether it's, dancing, whatever it is, because your body will love you back for it. And really thinking about why you're doing a movement is really important as well, and how it's going to benefit your body, not how it's going to make you look aesthetically. Yeah. So that's my biggest thing.
Yeah. Learn to enjoy it.
And learn to enjoy it. And I mean, like I said, we were talking about this before. I'm very hyper. So I actually find that burning my energy makes me slightly calmer.
Yes.
I'm a very high energy person. But I just feel so good afterwards, and it's just a celebration of what my body can do. And I never put myself down if I can't make the distance I wanted to when I ran. It's just, wow, I did it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Good. Did it take you a lot to get to that point? Like, were you always like that, or did you feel like you went through a journey where you're like, oh, I've just got to do this because everyone's doing it?
Yes.
Or,
oh my God.
Because I think I've definitely done that.
Oh my God, so much. I think it just unfortunately, I mean, where we live is a very small place, but I think exercise culture was just awful. I think it was the last few years. Yeah. It was actually before COVID, I think. Yeah. And then when COVID happened, I was like, wow, I'm going to really learn how to slow down and really listen to my body. But I remember being around people that'd be like, yep, if you do this amount of exercise, you'll get a 6-pack. And then as being a women's health physio, I'd look at all these women that are so fit, all different body shapes, and go, actually a 6-pack doesn't mean you're fit, or a 6-pack doesn't mean you're the best person ever. No. Look at what she can do. That's awesome. Yeah. So I think steering away from looks, but more so how you feel. Yeah. So it has taken me a while to get there, but I was always really fortunate that I had a really positive relationship with my mum, and she was really positive about body image and things like that. But you're surrounded with it every single day. So even the people I love most, it's just such a big topic of conversation. So I think really listening to my body, but I also think becoming a physio and doing a lot of women's health stuff has really helped me.
Of course.
And just seeing what women's bodies go through when they have a baby, and how much more of appreciation I have for being a female. I think before I was like, being a female sucks. Yeah. But now I'm like, fuck yes, I'm a female. I am the best. So
it's amazing what our bodies can do.
Yeah.
And we are so strong.
So strong.
We go through so much. And
so much. And
I'm like, we're still here. We just, have blood coming out of our vaginas every month, and we're just like, I'm still going to work.
Literally.
Whatever.
So
pushing out babies, whatever.
And that's what I say when that women would come back, like, you just pushed a baby out of that thing. How?
Yeah, exactly.
And they just stroll in like nothing happens. I'm like, oh my God, I dropped my coffee this morning. It ruined my whole day.
I was crying.
I was crying. I was like, I barely made it here. But you, look at you. Crazy.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I need to come and see you.
Yes.
You are just great to be around. So where can we find more of you? Where can we follow you? Where can we come and see you? Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of mobile stuff, and
Amazing.
that's just based off the fact that when I was treating mums, like, I mean, I don't even have a kid and I'm always running late to stuff. I really need to be good at that. But shit happens when you have a baby.
Yeah.
Like you could like plan 2 hours before to get to appointment on time and they do a poo explosion. Like what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So I've kind of moved it to more mobile. So I'll come to your house if you feel comfortable.
Amazing.
And we can do like a home exercise program. We can make it really, really convenient because we can just use whatever is at home.
Yeah.
But you can find me on my Instagram page, which is B-Physio and Pilates. And if you have any questions or queries, just slide into my DMs.
Amazing. She's got a really aesthetically pleasing Instagram
thank
you post so many great things on there.
Yeah.
You post workouts and quotes and motivation. It's so good. So we'll make sure we put all of that in the show notes so people can click on it and come and find you straight away.
Awesome.
Amazing. Thank you so much for today. It was
so
great.
good.
So much goodness about our vaginas and how to strengthen everything.
Yes, we love vaginas.
Yeah, we do. So amazing. So that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. And I hope you have taken even just one piece of wisdom from this episode that you can apply to your life to help you grow and be a happier and healthier version of you. Please like, subscribe, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and make sure to share us on your socials. Sending lots of love to you all. Bye. Yay!